Iki is an edible guy who is 21 and in college, but gets bullied for looking too much like a missus. However, after running away from home, he finally gets taken in by a freaky college roommate who wants to give him some special treatment. Itaka gives him a back massage and playfully nibbles his ear, making him faint like a weakling. He later wakes up to the heavenly side of her ample assets and feels embarrassed to find out she dressed him up. Itaka apologizes and tells him not to worry about his Ultraman-y sausage before hugging him and heading out to prepare lunch. As she cooks some soup, Ichi wonders why she doesn't treat him like a man and compares her to his older sister who made him quastrous, determined to prove his manliness. He decides to complete house chores. However, he only ends up being distracted by Ayaka's curves and fails like a total moo. Later, as he sulks about how he wants to be treated like a man for once, Ayaka tells him she'll treat him like one if he kisses her cheek. However, as soon as their plot develops, they get interrupted by three girls, the shortest of whom reprimands Adaka for acting like a creep. She reveals she's the student council president Yuzu, while the other two are the nosebleed prong Sumire and the sadistic nerd Yuri. Out of curiosity, Aki asks the president about the chick-like accessory she's wearing on her head, and Sumire reveals she has a height complex. She further tells him that Ayaka likes to mess with newcomers and has similarly attacked them in the past, shattering his one true love fantasy. Afterward, as the three girls lead to take a bath together, Hidaka asks if Aki would like to pick up from where they left off, only to make him flustered. The next morning, Aki wakes up with Hidaka's melons in his face. Although they later get walked in on and lectured by Yuzu, he still cheers himself up for the opening ceremony. As soon as the other three leave, he opens up to Ayaka about how much of a lonely, pathetic loser he is and to rescue him from the depths of his despair. She decides to help him by role-playing as a college girl. She asks him to raise her up, and Aki's anxiety soon begins to dwindle. She further places his hand on her chest and tells him it's okay to feel nervous because her heart feels the same way. However, instead of his heart, something else begins to pound in his body. After Ayaka wishes him good luck, he sprints out wondering how much more lucky he can get. He returns in the evening and tells Ayaka how her role-playing helped to make friends at school. In turn, she hugs him, saying he can ask for her help anytime he needs it, since she's the caretaker of the dormitory, making Aki smile out of gratefulness. 1 month has passed since the advent of Aki's new life, and he returns to the dorm one afternoon to be met with an absolute feast for the eyes. While he tries to focus his attention on homework, Itaka dances for him in a cheerleading uniform that is at least a size too small to fit her.
Nice.
In fact, Iki worries if she keeps this up, either her bouncy melons will slip out, or he will be left hot and bothered. Suddenly, his other three dormmates enter the room donning similar outfits, and Yuzu reveals that they are all preparing for the upcoming sports festival. He wonders if Ayaka will be visiting their college to cheer them on in her current attire, and his brainstorming leads him to a dirty paradise. However, D soon snaps out of it when Yuzu informs him he'll take part in a three-legged race with Ayaka, for which she'll train him. As the training begins, Edki helps Ayaka stretch and feels embarrassed when she makes happy noises. They then proceed to practice with their legs tied together, and although Edki wants to raise her up, his cultured mind holds him down when Ayaka picks up her pace, and her juicy melons bounce in his face. After hours of training, Iki hops in to take a bath, but is soon joined by Ayaka in a swimsuit who offers to trim his hair. He admits to her that the training wore him out, but promises to catch up to her soon. Later, as he soaks in the bathtub, Iki can't help but simp after Ayaka's figure, while she showers herself. His internal dilemma only worsens when she joins him in the tub, and reasons that it'll improve their chances of winning the race. From then on, the two eat, train, and sleep together every day in hopes of getting better as a team. However, on the big day, Aki passes out from the intense strain on his body and forfeits the race some days later. He's startled by a scream and finds Yuzu in the bathroom crying. She reveals there's a spider in there and asks him to get rid of it. However, being the spineless loser he is, Aki refuses just as the two shift the blame on one another. Sumire jumps into the picture and uses her ninja instincts to do the deed, only to faint when the spider decides to attack back. Yuri pops out and explains how spiders never attack humans and should be left alone, before vanishing out of fear, as well left with no other choice. Yuzun and Aki decide to become insect exterminators themselves. However, before they can do anything, Ayaka gets attacked by the deadly spider that lands on top of her cushions. Much to Aki's surprise, she remains unfazed. and uses her booby traps to capture and get rid of it with ease.
Oh my god! Wow!
She then turns to the Shakinaki and asks him to go shopping with her, much to his delight. Convinced that he's just been asked out by the goddess of his dreams, he takes his time to select what to wear. Meanwhile, the other three baddies assign him with the mission to find out Ayaka's weakness. As their date begins, Aki believes that it's third combined rise as a couple that has all eyes staring at them. In reality though, they just assume he's her kid. They arrive at a local liquor shop and the shop owner, Yatsuo, mistakes Aki for a girl while he tries to prove he's a chat. Instead, Yatsuo thanks Ayaka for helping out at a recent peer fest, revealing to him that she's good at holding her booze. Later, as Aki ponders over how little he knows about her, Ayaka holds his hand and thanks him for his help, wondering if there's any way that she can repay him. He only smiles to himself, admitting that he's happy enough as her plaything and doesn't want more. When they get home, Yuzu inquires whether he completed their top-secret mission, and upon knowing that he failed, she hands him a horror movie DVD, with instructions to find out whether Ayaka is scared of such films. However, when he puts this plan into action, he's the one who ends up pissing his pants. During their next committee meeting, Yuzu advises Aki to go and ask Ayaka about her weakness directly. And with the delusion that it's going to get him to clap her, he hops on this quest. Adaka, however, decides to play along and lies that what scares her is strangers sneaking into her room while she's asleep. Being the good boy that he is, Aki does exactly this and sneaks into her room past midnight. However, before he escapes, Ayaka pulls him into her bed and lies about being scared of a horror film they watched a while ago. As his dope luck reaches peak potency, they snuggle and wake up hand in hand the next morning, much to Yuzu's dismay. A few mornings later, Aki finds himself in a strange situation as Yuzu occupies his bed and reads a steamy romance comic to bar. She's seeking refuge from the heat since his room is cooler than hers. However, to him, it's distracting to have a defenseless girl lying around so close. Things heat up when she misunderstands his cultured gaze and tells him to come up and read the comic with her instead of staring at it. To make matters worse, she takes his seat in between his legs and innocently begins to flip pages until it dawns upon her they are subconsciously reenacting a steamy scene from the comic. As Yuzu turns beet red from embarrassment, she tells him not to get the wrong idea and sprints out. Right then, Adaka enters Aki's room with some cookies and wonders why Yuzu left in such a hurry. Aki says he doesn't understand, and she decides to play detective by asking him to replicate what they were doing with her. As he takes a seat on her lap and feels her melons against his back, he finally understands. However, before their plot develops any further, Yuzu walks in on them with a lecture on chastity. Meanwhile, Sumire observes the scene with her ninja eyes and begins her mission to exterminate all the pests around Yuzu. She starts by stalking Aki in hopes of discovering why he's won the leading role in Yuzu's obsession saga, while she hasn't, as she begins to undress him in the toilet one day. Egki reassures her the reason certainly doesn't lie underneath his pants and wonders why she doesn't ask Yuzu directly. Sumire states she's busy and Egki wonders why another weirdo has lashed onto him. Things don't stop there and she follows him into his room, copying his every move, leaving him uncomfortable. However, tables turn when she unexpectedly becomes his unpaid teacher and helps him with his homework. As Aki thanks her for saving his dumbass, Sumire recalls why she initially came into his room and resumes her investigation. She discovers a cute plushie in his closet, and although Aki is initially defensive of his interest in girly things, seeing how the badass chick likes it, he admits that he does too. The two immediately click and form an unlikely alliance. Right then, Adaka walks in and assumes she's interrupting a newly formed situationship. Thankfully for Aiki's sake, Sumire decides to clear up the misunderstanding and explains they were merely exposing their embarrassing parts to each other. Just as Aiki worries she may have made matters worse, Sumire takes her leave before warning him to hide all the R-rated stuff in his room from Yuzu. A few days later, Bucky and the gang find Sumire lying like a dead body in her room, and Yuzu explains how it happened. Being vertically challenged Yuis, who couldn't pass the hide station during their recent amusement park trip, and Sumire has since tried various methods to punish herself for suggesting the idea in the first place, depression being one of them. Now, to save her from her despair, they need Aki to become her free therapist. He wonders how he can enter a girl's room being a man, and Yuri instantly finds a solution in her cosplay closet. As he enters Sumire's room and notices how girly it is, the opposite of her real-life persona, she pokes fun at his cross-dressing hobby. Aki asks what he should do, so she returns to her usual self, and she outright tells him to help her get changed. However, even after putting on a feminine dress, she feels like dying simply because she hasn't raised Yujin on her shoulders all day. Aki offers himself as a substitute. Enter XP immediately returns to normal as she makes up with everyone. Yuzu reveals that she has upgraded her chick accessory to a rooster. However, even with this tactic, she fails to pass to hide station. A few days later, Yuri asks for Aki's help with something only he can help her with, convinced that it's because he's the only guy in the house. He gets easily manipulated, but soon finds himself faced with an identity crisis. She tells him to wear a maid outfit for a photo shoot, and he unwillingly does so, finding it strange that it fits him perfectly. After he models in a few more attires, Yuri begs him to wear a bikini, which he refuses as their cat and mouse chase begins. Ayaka wonders what's up and heads to Yuri's room, unwilling to let her discover his questionable sidekick. Aki instinctively pulls Yuri into her closet to hide and succeeds. However, once Ayaka leaves, Yuri draws his attention to their intimate position, and he jumps out of the closet out of embarrassment. Later he swoons over Yuri's sweet scent, while she adds his photograph to her collection. One morning USA brings up the topic of marriage, and news is about becoming a June bride by tying the knot in summer. Itaka hops on the bandwagon, saying every girl dreams of becoming one. Hearing this, Iki lands in his land of delusions, where church bells ring and he becomes the underage husband of Ayaka. Yuz reveals her plan to rock her apron as a domestic goddess in the future. As Tatumura and Yuri join them, Yuri unleashes her inner statist, plotting to be her husband's life support to the point that he can't breathe without her, while Sumi-Rei struggles to imagine herself married. When it's Ayaka's turn, she states her desire to form a mutually supportive relationship, which later makes Aki wonder what he can do to support her. That evening, after his attempt at becoming Gordon Ramsay Teresa fails, Yuzu approaches him and asks whether it's true that guys prefer bigger melons on women. The question catches him off guard, and he wonders why she doesn't, asking Sumire about it since she has a pretty big pair herself. She states it's because Sumire believes flat is justice, and asks Aki to find ways to increase her size. In search of an answer, he approaches the melon queen Ayaka, and as she embraces him, Aki discovers that her huge size is a reflection of her warmth and kindness. With this groundbreaking discovery, he returns to Yusu and advises her to be kind if she wants her size to grow, only to be physically tortured. As the rainy season approaches, Eki abandons his studies to help Ayaka with some roof leaks. However, the latter gets knocked over, and they end up stranded on the roof as it begins to pour. Ayaka suggests having to keep themselves warm, which somehow makes Aki imagine their future married life. The thought alone makes him trip, but Ayaka catches him and lands them in an intimate position. Much to his fluster, right then the other three discover them and accuse Ayaka of flirting with a wimp like him, while she struggles to clear the misunderstanding. A few days later, as rain trenches everyone on their way back, Yusu races Aki to get into the bath first, while his cultured eyes notice her soaked shirt. They settle the debate with a rock-paper match and Aki loses. In the bath, Yuri notices how Sumire's melons have grown a few degrees, while Sumire notices Yuzu's plot development. On the other hand, as Aki sneezes from the cold, Ayaka offers him her body heat, which he refuses even though every inch of his body wants it. In the end, he settles for a lap pillow, and she ruffles to his hair. At the peak of summer, Yusu forces Aki to set up a garden pool, just to show off her brand new swimsuit. When exposed by Yuri, she sprays the hose in her direction, trenching Ayaka and Sumire's heavy plots. The latter takes off her shirt, uncovering a heavenly sight, and being the man of culture he is, Aki can't take his eyes off. Yuzuya notices this and rolls her eyes before banning him from joining them in the pool. Right then, Itaka calls for him in the kitchen, and Iki meets a full-blown beach fantasy, as she stands there in a spicy bikini, and hands him a tray full of watermelons. However, his eyes stay glued to her watermelons instead, making her wonder if he's having a heat stroke. She suggests he wear his swimsuit like the rest of them too, and Aki wonders if it's time to captivate her with his rays, only to realize he doesn't have any. Later, she asks if he'd like to cool himself in the pool, once the rest are done with it. When he says he feels embarrassed all alone, she offers to join him, sending his heart into a frenzy. His eyes land on her melons again, and he decides to admire this gift of God. However, it becomes too much for him and gives up like a wimpy loser. Soon the girls leave the pool, and Ayaka pushes him into it before jumping in herself, hoping it'll cool him down a bit. Meanwhile, Yuri captures the scene from afar. Aki later catches her in the hallway taking photos of the walls, and she reveals it's a new camera, so she's getting used to it. as she shows him her grade school level photography. A questionable picture of Yusu arrives, just as she manages to threaten Aki and hide it. Sumire shows up visibly impatient. To quench her thirst, Yuri shows her some secretly captured pictures of Yuzu, causing a pool of blood to squirt out of her nose. As she heads upstairs to get some money for their trade, Yuri turns to Aiki and threatens to make him disappear. Now that he's aware of her secret side business, except on one condition: to demonstrate her skills to Aki. She lures Yusu out of her room with a steamy romance comic. As soon as her fangirl mode activates, she captures her picture and stashes it for profit. He calls her a crazy serial stalker, but she argues it's watching people in their natural habitat, just as he wonders why she hasn't been jailed yet. Yuri asks him to get her some similar pictures of Ayaka in exchange for his life since she hasn't been successful at it. Although he agrees, the new gets caught right away. However, Ayaka allows that an offer is to pose for the pictures, saving his life in the process. As summer vacation begins, Ayaka role-plays as Aki's private tutor to help him do his homework. And after welcoming her on a red carpet, he settles down with his books to motivate him. She reveals she'll reward him if he completes it on his own, which pumps him up as he tries hard to keep his focus. Ayaka's constant attempts at providing fan service distract him. First, she takes off her coat when she feels hot, revealing her plot points, causing Aiki to get drunk on some barley tea to preserve his concentration. Next, she settles next to him and prevents him from using the toilet until he's done with the task at hand. After hours of torture as he completes his homework, Hidaka leaves the room to get his reward. Meanwhile, his imagination runs wild, in hopes of guessing whether she'll be cosplaying a hot bunny girl next or naughty nurse. Although he's a bit disappointed to find the reward is a cola popsicle, seeing her suck and lick her ice pop satisfies him to some extent. In evening, Yatsuo brings them a crate of juice bottles to celebrate their vacations, which Ayaka later allows Aki to drink, while she pours herself some beer. As she begins to get drunk, Aki simps after the hot look on her face. However, as soon as the others get home, Yuzu warns him to get away from her. Just as he makes sense of it, Ayaka jumps on Yuzu and becomes a kissing maniac. Sumire and Yuri are soon defeated too, and Aki is cornered. He tries to argue she should say these things for someone she loves. However, as she gets down on her knees, Aki panics, wondering if he'll finally get laid, only to find she has fainted. Hidaka later wakes up in his lap and tells him she'll wait for him to grow up so they can drink together someday. One morning, Aki unlocks his room to find a fully exposed woman in his room. She apologizes for letting herself in and explains that it was her room until a few months ago, which is why she came inside. As he walks in, she complains about the heat and begins to strip, much to his annoyance, and introduces herself as Nana. Upon learning Aiki's name, she wonders if he's a girl and to confirm it, begins to pull his pants right then. Yuzu walks in but immediately tries to escape upon seeing Nana. However, she fails and Nana pulls her in before beginning to strip once again. Yuzu escapes with Aiki and explains that this professional stripper is the ex-student council president, which he finds hard to believe. When they walk back in, Nana shows off her new uniform and begins to simp after Aki, until Yuzu steps in, declaring that she won't be allowed to do as she pleases anymore. This gives rise to a nerdy fight between the two, to prove who is the real top dog. However, only after a few math equations, Yuzu loses as the two begin to fight over their winning prize. Ayaka walks in and rescues Aki, before revealing that Nana is her sister. Eki finds it hard to believe and during lunchtime, tells Ayaka how they are like fire and ice. However, she reassures him that underneath Nana's batty facade is a very kind person. The next morning, Aki's hand lands on something soft while he sleeps, which turns out to be Nana's juicy melons. She wakes up to his scream and teases the bad boy about sneaking into a lady's rooms. Aki reminds her she's in his room, and her dumbass apologizes for the mistake. When Aki continues to stare at her, she realizes she isn't wearing any makeup and sprints out in panic. Moments later, she bursts through his door again and pulls out a gaming console from a place Aki didn't know existed. She begs him to play with her, but he admits he's never touched a video game before. Smirking, she muses that his first time will be with her, and decides to give him a special lesson. As he settles between her legs, she nibbles his ear and tickles him to maintain his focus. However, even when he finally wins a match, his soul escapes his body. He later wakes up in her lap and realizes she appears as kind as Ayaka when she's quiet. But this piece is short-lived and Nana forces him to play another game, promising she won't let him sleep tonight. As Aki loses fight after fight, afternoon arrives and Ayaka enters his room, only to find him exhausted. Nana begs her to let her take Aiki in as her pet, and they begin fighting over who he belongs to. Later, as he tends to the garden, Ike finds himself in an R-rated utopia, where both Nana and Ayaka begin to fight over who he will massage first. Although it turns out to be a dream, he soon finds it becoming a reality by the poolside and wonders if he's a psychic. However, instead of Ayaka and her sister, two hot strangers approach him and wonder if he'd be their sugar baby as he struggles to escape. Nana salves him only to find that the cultured ladies are none other than her college buddies. They introduce themselves as Mai and Uchifuji, and shamelessly admit they like to hit on younger men. FBI open up. Turning to Nana, they wonder if she's clapping Egi, but she calls him her pet instead, saying that she basically owns him, right? Then the actual owner of Aki arrives, and the baddies are immediately captivated by her. Buddha Aura caught red-handed. Nuna bargains Aki's ownership with Ayaka, and they settle their bet on a swimming race. As their Aiki bowl begins, Nana feels fairly confident that the heavier weight of Ayaka's blessings will hold her back. However, she turns it around with a backstroke. Meanwhile, Mei and Uchifuji question their new plaything, whether he likes bigger melons or small, and forget their jobs as referees. Determined to win against Ayaka, Nana keeps begging for a rematch until the sun begins to set and even her friends return home. Eventually, she gives up and Ayaka decides to teach Aiki swimming as promised, only to learn that it's closing time. One night as Yuzu watches a horror movie with Aiki, she pisses her pants while he lectures her on the virtues of bravery, and calls her an ugly wimp, until Nana scares the shit out of him with a jump scare as Yusufant. Nana reveals their house is pretty old and is often visited by ghosts, offering to sleep with Aiki if he ever feels scared. Although he rejects her tempting offer, his worst fears come true when he hears strange noises at night. Frightened, he knocks at Ayaka's room, convincing himself he doesn't have an ulterior motive, only to be surprised when Yuzu opens the door. Before he squeezes an explanation out of her, Ayaka explains that the room next to Eki's is the storage room that no one has used in years. In fact, it can only be opened from the outside, and is sealed with decades-old rust. Knowing they watched a scary movie, Ayaka offers to let him and Yuzu sleep with her tonight, only to send him away with shame. When the noises don't cease, Aki checks the storage only to find Nana working out in there. She explains how she needs to burn extra calories to maintain her ample physique, and asks if he would like to exercise with her. As he turns her down, she asks him not to rat her out to Ayaka about her personal gym, only to find she has been discovered. Ayaka reprimands her for spending like a spoiled daddy's princess, and threatens to cut down on her homemade meals unless she cleans it all up. This leads to an argument between the dormmates about who would keep the treadmill, which leads to another rift between Nana and Yuzu. To settle this, they test their bodies to the limit with exercise equipment. While Yuzu keeps losing, Aki enjoys the view of Nana's hotcakes and plot points, and Sumira's nose keeps squirting blood. Eventually, Yuzu challenges Nana to an endurance test on a monkey bar, and for the first time the weight of her melons lets her down. Right then Adaka arrives and explains, since the machine will scratch their floors, it can be kept in the storeroom. Much to everyone's disappointment, that evening as Aki helps her clean the garden walls, he eyes her drenched shirt, being the cultured man that he is noticing this. She takes it off and gives him a better view of her melons while taking out the trash. Later, Aki ponders on how to help her with her tough job. When Yuri catches him, she offers to teach him her secret body massage technique, and the two land in Sumera's room for the demonstration. Although she's horrified at first, as soon as Yuri begins her massage, her happy noises echo, making Aki question its credibility. Even so, he approaches Ayaka, and to sound less like a creep and more like an ideal boyfriend, he forges massage coupons and expresses his desire to make her feel good. She hugs him and takes up on his offer immediately. However, the innocent massage that starts with her shoulders ends suspiciously around her waist, making her call them cultured. That evening, Aki returns home to find Mei and Uchifuji begging Nanak to help them with homework. Mag reasons that her chance to simp after half-naked boys would have been lost had she shifted her attention elsewhere, and although Aiki tries to tiptoe past them, Nana still catches him and turns him into their pleasure device, with each milestone winning them teasing rides over Aki for about 10 seconds. Their homework quickly finishes while he turns into a dead slump. Right then, Itaka enters the room with some tea, and the group decides to play the King's game. To fit into the demographic, she dons her college girl costume and brings a pack of Pocky sticks. The first pair to share the Pocky becomes Aiki and Ayaka, and although Ayaka seems willing, the weakling gives up before he gets to smooch her. Later, as the night comes to an end, Aki gives all three girls Yuri's secret massage, and the dorm fills with their happy noises. One morning Nana talks to Aiki about the upcoming summer festival, and regrets that her vacations are almost over. When Olga's musings fall on dead ears, she performs wrestling moves on him, and he forcefully admits he'll miss her. She later asks Ayaka to do something to her that Aki finds soothes. His suspicions prove to be true when he eavesdrops and hears Nana's happy noises, only to be caught red-handed in the act. She teases him before dragging him inside to receive the same treatment, which turns out to be in her cleaning session. As he stiffly lays his head on her lap, Itaka tells him to imagine her as his mommy and begins the cleaning. However, her huge melons prove it difficult for him to focus. Later Nana barges in to find him passed out from the pleasure, and teases him about it one evening. She gaunts a traditional dress for the festival and tries to raise him up, but Aiki's toddler brain fails to understand it right then. Ayaka arrives regretting that she can't wear a yukata, because none of them fit her bouncy assets. Imagining how hot she would look, Aki begs her to wear one and she instantly agrees. Later his plot development with the sisters gets walked in on by Yuzum. The gay in the festival begins with Yuzu's sullen attitude. Meanwhile Ayataka and Nana become the presidents of Aki's harem, and walk with him hand in hand, which embarrasses him. They play multiple games at stalls with Nana beating him every time, and are later joined by Ma and Achifuji. Mai shares her lollipop with Aiki, wondering if he'd like to suck on it, while Uchifuji pats his head. With this new addition to Aiki's harem, they head to Yatsubo's stall to buy some food items, only to later fight over who will feed Aiki first. Tired of their constant blabbering, he runs away leaving Ayaka worried. Meanwhile, Yusu takes off Rusandar's mask upon learning that Aiki has gone missing, and heads to the lost and found desk to make an announcement. As the fireworks go off in the distance, Aiki regrets his outburst and misses his harem. When Ayaka finds him and hugs him tightly, scolding his recklessness, he tearfully hugs her back as his heart explodes with the fireworks later. Ayaka holds his hand while they return to the others, refusing to let him go again. As the night comes to an end, the group watches the fireworks together, and Aki realizes with the final explosion that Nana's days with them are almost over. As she leaves in the morning the next day, he tearfully follows after her and promises to become a pro gamer before their next summer together. One evening Aki is greeted by Ayaka in a hot maid outfit. She reveals he's accompanying her to the shopping district today, which Yusu forgot to tell him, and he eagerly agrees. They are greeted by a drunk Yatsu at her shop-in. Ayaka explains they'll help her out with the customers today, since it's the liquor festival day. The owner then tells Aki he'll have to cross-dress to provide his services, but he refuses only to find he has no other option. That's when he turns to the secret weapon Yuri gave him, only to discover it's a lady's wig, not a butler's outfit. However, his Meg cosplay soon proves fruitful, when multiple customers begin eroding at the shop, and his lady charm helps him get away when he messes up an order. Although disappointed in himself, he gets captivated by Ayaka's Reese, and while he simps for her, she tells him it's okay to make mistakes. With that validation he tries harder, and the festival eventually comes to an end with immense success. Later as Yatsuo offers him the position of a permanent Catholic mate, and he refuses, a drunk Ayaka hugs him and does R-rated things to him, much to his fluster later. As Yuzum and the others leave for their field trip, a lonely Ayaka asks Aiki to sleep with her, but he runs off in embarrassment. Nana arrives in the evening, and sucks on some sweet potatoes that Ayaka bakes them, along with Aiki. However, she later worries about her recent weight gain, and when Ayaka teases her about it, she strips her and touches her up, while Ayaka makes happy noises that distract Aki in his room. A few days later Aki wakes up to find Ayaka collapsed in his room. To seek help he bursts into Yuzu's room while she's busy stripping and demands that they call an ambulance. They later lay Ayaka in Aki's bed, and Yuzu explains he has a bad cold, which doesn't require emergency treatment. As the girls leave for college, they hand over Ayaka's care to him, and Yuzu tells him to behave himself. Meanwhile Ayaka wakes up from a sadistic dream and whispers Aki's name. Right then he enters the room with some hot porridge, and tells her she can depend on him for whatever she needs. Using this offer she opens up wide and asks him to feed her, which he does with a beet red face. Upon noticing how much she's sweating, Ayaka begs him to wipe her back and begins to strip. Although flustered, he reminds himself he's her doctor for the day, and uses a towel to wipe her down. After whispering soft happy noises, she turns around with her melons barely covered, and begs him to wipe her just under them too. Being a man of culture he completes his task, and Ayaka later promises to walk down his whole body the next time he falls sick, to return the favor sometime later. Yatsu arrives at the dormitory with a pair of tickets to an aquarium, and coaxes Ayaka to drink a bottle of wine with her. Meanwhile, Aiki explores the shopping district during Halloween, and comes across Nana and her cultured friends. The girls immediately attack Aki and force him to join them on their newest adventure. This brings him to a karaoke session with the girls, where he's forced to take a seat on Nana's hot lap, while the other to sing in harmony. When it's his turn, Enki reveals he has never been to karaoke before. While Uchifuchi simps and she'll have his first time. When he tries to sing, the cultured ladies begin caressing his thighs, which makes it harder for him to do so, and he eventually gives up. On the other hand, Yatsuo and Ayaka share drink after drink and become wasted, to the point that Yatsuo begins to play with her soft melons and begs her to become her mommy. Meanwhile, Aiki and the gang pose for some pictures and a photo booth, and Nana teaches him some cute moods when they are alone. Seeing this, the other to take him back inside and begin to eat him while posing for an embarrassing picture. Bidding farewell after an exhausting day, Aki returns to see Yusuf in witch's costume. And to his utter embarrassment, she discovers this photograph with the ladies. As she calls him out for being cultured, Yuri and Sumiru arrive, and all of them hear Yatsuo and Ayaka's happy noises in unison. Aiki peeks into Ayaka's room to see Yatsuo eating her melons, and is soon joined by Yuzu and the rest. As Yuzu barges in and reprimands her for getting their adoptive mommy drunk, she becomes subject to their kissing attacks. Meanwhile, Aki quietly flees the scene like a coward. One evening, Ayaka asks Aiki if he likes penguins. Although he does, he acts like a Chad and pretends he doesn't care too much about them. However, when she asks him out on an aquarium date, he eagerly agrees to go to his advantage. Yuzu's fear of marine life keeps the other three out of his way, and he gets to enjoy Ayaka all for himself, as he admires his beloved penguins from afar. On the date, Ayaka notices how similar they are to their dorm family, with Yuzu still picking on Aki even as a penguin. Later, they walk hand in hand into a souvenir shop, and as Aki struggles to maintain his tough guy facade, Ayaka buys penguin keychains for everyone. Afterwards, Sumira and Aki simp after Yusu's grade school photos, when Yuri mentions how they look like actual siblings. Sumira forces him to call her elder sister, suggesting that it might awaken their secret sibling bond, only to be interrupted by Yusu, who claims to be the ideal elder sister. To prove her point, she confidently offers a lap pillow to Aki, only to lose face and become embarrassed once it gets hot. Seeing her cultured expression, Sumire picks her up and volunteers to become Ryumbu's sister instead. Then comes Yuri's turn and she cuts apples for Aki, making him wonder why they are suddenly playing house. However, her resolve crumbles when she sees him suck on them and she gives up too. Finally, Sumira decides to bathe with Aiki to prove their kinship, but Yuzu argues that only same-gender siblings can do so. This reminds them of Aiki's actual sister, and upon questioning, they realize that he and his sister did bathe together, which leads to his teasing. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure stands outside the dorm and observes it. The next morning, Aiki wakes up in his sweet home, Alabama, when his undressed sister begins to take off his clothes, only to be interrupted by Adaka. She apologizes for interrupting their family reunion, as the girl later introduces herself as Matsuri. Egi questions how she found him in such a big city, and she blames the power of love, which strangely convinces everyone else. Yuzu notices how Aki is dressed differently from usual, and Matsuri reveals she always dresses her little sister in cute clothes. The Mashenjarin confuses Yuzu, but Sumira and Yuri agree with her, while Aki thinks about ways to disappear. However, when Yuzu states he looks better in his usual clothes, the certified psycho threatens to mess her up too, only to be told off by Sumira, who claims to be Yusu's only owner. Later, as she leaves and Aiki bids farewell to her, Matsuri states that he's returning home with her as punishment for leaving her out of his life, which utterly shocks him. He hides behind his one true savior and turns down Matsuri's offer, only for her to drag him away. However, the feel of Ayaka's warm melons changes her mind, and she accuses her of tricking her father with her hot body. Itaka states that he is completely satisfied with her, and that Matsuri shouldn't impose her wishes on him. This blows her fuse, and as her legs shake like a bowl of jello, she tells Ayaka to pass her test if she wants to keep Aki to herself. As Aki Bowl 2.0 begins, Ayaka dons her college girl costume and decides to prepare dinner. While Matsuri vows to fail her either way, she prepares hamburger steaks for everyone. And although Matsuri wants to act like a tough bitch or growling, stomach fails her as everyone else devours the meal. She takes a bite too, and officially becomes an Ayaka simp. However, since she still needs to keep up her bucket, she decides to test her further, but fails once again when Ayaka tempts her with a dessert. As she nears her defeat after being showered by her kindness, Matsuri decides to leave only to be held back by the lovely caretaker, who leads her to the bathroom for a hot bath. As she plots about how to defeat such a tough opponent, Adaka enters the bathroom and offers her their traditional back massage. Hearing about this, she asks if Aki got one too, and Ayaka smiles, confirming her suspicions. As she later rubs her back, Matsuri declares that no one can be a bigger Aki fangirl than she is. But as Ayaka bites her ear and spoils her rotten, she admits her defeat, much to everyone's surprise. The following day, she tails Aki and Ayaka as they visit the shopping district, but quickly blows her cover when their intimacy feels sus to her. She accuses Ayaka of making moves on Aki, only to discover she was merely feeding him a pastry. Being a sour loser, Matsuri kidnaps him the first chance she gets, leaving Ayaka alone and worried. As Aiki struggles in her grasp, she pushes him against a wall and says she cannot hold back anymore. While bringing her face closer to him, Aiki tells her to go get a life, which offends her, and she scolds him for talking back. As the estranged siblings struggle to return home, Matsuri falls and sprains her ankle. Aki helps her out by carrying her on his back, which reminds her of their childhood together. Once they reach home, Ayaka pats his head for being such a good boy, and Matsuri realizes it isn't her toy anymore. She decides to leave for good, but returns the very next day with the big revelation that she is transferred to a nearby institute, much to Aiki's annoyance. As winter arrives, Aiki helps Ayaka set at the kotatsu, and the two eagerly enjoy its warmth. To add to the comfort, she feeds him mandarins while looking like a whole meal herself, and although he'd rather taste her melons, he enjoys the segments either way. Suddenly the heater goes out, and Ayaka crawls beneath the table to fix it, only to discover Aki's ticklish feet. As she begins her teasing, his heart almost gives out and he begs her to quit, which she sheepishly does. Later, Eki visits the shopping district with Yusum, blabbers about how he can't wait to get a gift from Santa this year, making her realize that the idiot still believes in his existence. To keep his heart from breaking, she plays along and later holds a meeting with the rest. Since Aki plans on staying up late to catch Santa this year, Yuri suggests drugging him to sleep, while Sumori suggests chopping his neck off, both of which Yusu rejects. On Christmas Day, his entire harem greets Aiki, while he tries not to stare at the melon fest. As Ayaka brings out her cake, Yuzu's previously worried mood changes, and everyone enjoys the party. They are later joined by Yatsuo, who asks Aiki to roleplay as a shrine maiden on New Year's Day. Bomb Mayana Shifuji go on about their shady R-rated pastimes. Meanwhile, Nana teases Yuzu about stealing Aki for the night, leaving her flustered bored of their conversations. Enki leaves the living room, only to be followed after by Nana, who asks him to sneak out with her. He declines, saying that he mustn't misbehave until Santa visits him with a gift. Freaked out, she almost tells him the truth about Santa, but Yuzu steps in and seals her mouth. While Nana suggests her to sleep with him to make him forget about Santa, Aki's psycho sister stalks them. As the doormats bid farewell to the guests, Ayaka discovers Matsuri and brings her inside. She reveals she just wanted to surprise Aki with her present and spend the night with him. Meanwhile, as Aki plans on catching Santa red-handed, Yuzu knocks at his door and says she wants to sleep with him. Alovi's defensive at first, uses body heat and my smells makes him doze off like a baby. Just as they both fall asleep, Ayaka and Matsuri sneak into their room with the presents, and in his half-asleep state, Aki mistakes Ayaka for Santa. That night he dreams of flying in Santa's sleigh over the town with his entire fan club. The next morning he tells Ayaka about how much Santa resembles her, and Nana teases Yuzu about her experience sleeping with Aiki, leaving her flustered on New Year's Eve. Everyone cleans up the dorm, and later uses Aiki as their portable heater. Wondering why he's so hot, to pay him for his body heat, they decide to clean up his room. However, Sumiri stumbles upon his magazine about how to become a buffed-up alpha, making him frown like an ugly loser. As they enjoy soba noodles at night, Yuzu reveals that Matsuri has transferred to Nana's college, which Aki thinks will become a pain in the ass in the near future. Once the three chicks leave him alone with Ayaka, Aki decides to stay with her until midnight. Itaka initially scolds him for staying up late, but lets him off because it's a special day. As her body heat makes him drowsy, she wonders if her services have satisfied him, which he admits eagerly, happy to hear this. She holds his hands and promises to work harder this year. And as the clock strikes 12, they wish each other a happy new year. Will Aki ever get the chance to clap her since you made it this far? Confuse the fake fans by typing RIP Aki in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you guys in the next video.